Elara nestled deeper into her sleep cocoon, the soft purr of its internal climate controls a familiar lullaby. Outside her viewport, the city of Astraea colony hummed with quiet, perpetual motion. Not the deep, resonant hum of an ancient forest, or the whisper of wind across an open field, but the steady, efficient thrum of a million interwoven systems, all working in perfect synchronicity. She watched the miniature hover taxis glide along their designated pathways, their lights tracing fleeting patterns against the polished durasteel walls of the neighboring habitation towers. Beyond them, a vast curved dome shimmered with the artificial twilight of Astraea's internal sky, a carefully calibrated simulation of dusk that never quite deepened into true night. It was pretty, in its own way. The dome sometimes displayed swirling nebulae of synthesized light, or the slow, majestic passage of a data whale, its immense holographic form gliding through the simulated void. But it wasn't the same. Elara knew it wasn't the same, even though she'd never seen the real thing. Not truly. "Starlight," she whispered, the word feeling precious on her tongue. It was a word from the old stories Nona told, stories of a time when people lived on a green and blue planet, under a sky that stretched boundless, speckled with countless pinpricks of light, that were not projections, not simulations, but real, burning suns, impossibly far away. Nona called them stars, and spoke of how their light, ancient beyond imagining, would travel for millennia just to twinkle down on sleepy eyes. Elara closed her own eyes, trying to conjure the image Nona painted. She had a small star sphere, a gift from Nona on her last birthday. It sat on her bedside table, a globe of polished obsidian that, with a gentle touch, could project constellations onto her bedroom ceiling. Orion, the hunter, striding across the curved plaster. Ursa Major, the great bear, chasing her tail. But even those, beautiful as they were, felt like echoes, like photographs of laughter, when what she yearned for was the sound itself. Tonight, the star sphere remained dark. Elara wanted to imagine the stars herself, to feel the quiet vastness Nona described. She imagined floating, weightless, in an endless sea of velvet black, with diamonds scattered generously across it. She imagined the silence, broken only by the gentle thrum of her own heart. A deep, peaceful longing settled in her chest, a familiar companion on these quiet nights. She must have drifted off, because suddenly, the velvet black was no longer imagined. She was there. Not in her sleep cocoon, not in her room, but truly at the rang. The cold, beautiful emptiness stretched around her, an infinite canvas splashed with brilliant burning jewels. Each star was a tiny sun, not a distant dot, but a living, breathing ember, casting impossibly soft light across the void. Nebulae swirled like cosmic paint, greens and blues and violets bleeding into one another, forming impossible clouds of creation. A spiral galaxy, its arms flung wide, spun slowly in the distance, a silent dance of billions of suns. Elara felt no fear, only an overwhelming sense of belonging. Her body, if she had one, was light as thought. She reached out, her hand passing through the shimmering light of a nearby star cloud, feeling nothing, yet feeling everything. A warmth spread through her, not physical heat, but the warmth of pure wonder. This was Starlight. This was the ancient, silent beauty Nona spoke of. It was more profound, more breathtaking than any projection or story could convey. It was the universe whispering a secret directly into her soul. A soft chime pulled her from the depths of the dream. Morning. The artificial twilight of Astraea's dome was brightening, preparing for the full spectrum illumination of the day. Elara blinked, the phantom image of the starlit void still shimmering behind her eyelids. She felt a pang of disappointment, a familiar ache. The dream had been so real. So utterly, perfectly real. She pushed open the sleep cocoon, letting its soft shell retract. The air was cool and crisp, recycled 1,000 times, scented faintly with ozone and synth blossom. Her small room, functional and tidy, looked particularly mundane after the cosmic grandeur of her dream. She stretched, her joints popping softly, then made her way to the sonic shower. Its spray was a fine mist that cleansed and invigorated without needing soap or towels, leaving her skin feeling fresh and new. Dressed in her standard colony jumpsuit, a comfortable, deep blue fabric that shifted subtly with her movements, Elara headed for the communal breakfast bar. Astraea Colony was a marvel of human ingenuity, built generations ago after Earth's atmosphere became too volatile for safe habitation. It was a self-sustaining ecosystem orbiting a calm, distant star, a haven for humanity. Everyone had their role, their place, their purpose. Elara's purpose for now was to learn. The breakfast bar was already bustling. Families sat at curved, polished tables, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of datapads and the flickering holographic news feeds that floated above each station. Elara grabbed a nutrient-dense protein bar and a warm cup of synth cacao. She preferred the quiet corner by the largest viewport, where the internal sky dome was at its most impressive, showing a bustling network of cargo drones ascending, ferrying supplies between the colony's many sectors. "Good morning, Elara." Nona's voice, warm and melodic, drifted over the din. Elara looked up, a smile lighting her face. Nona, with her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and her eyes crinkling at the corners, was Astraea Colony's chief archaeobotanist. She cultivated the vital genetically engineered plants that recycled the colony's air and produced much of its food. But to Elara, she was simply Nona, the keeper of stories and dreams. "Morning, Nona," Elara replied, making room. Nona settled beside her, a steaming mug of her favorite herbal infusion in hand. "You look like you've been on an adventure this morning." Elara's eyes widened. "I dreamed of Starlight, Nona. Real Starlight. It was incredible, so vast, so quiet. I could almost touch it." Nona's smile softened. "Ah, the deep void dreams. They visit us when we're ready for them." She took a slow sip of her tea, her gaze drifting towards the bustling internal sky. "Sometimes, the universe just needs to remind us what's out there, beyond the durasteel and the synth light." Elara nodded, a knot of longing tightening in her chest. "I wish I could see it for real, not just in a dream." Nona patted her hand. "Patience, little star seeker. The universe has its own timing." She winked, a playful sparkle in her ancient eyes. "And sometimes, a little ingenuity from an old woman can help it along." Elara tilted her head, intrigued, but before she could ask, Nona was already on her feet. "Now, off to school with you. The history of exoplanetary colonization awaits. Don't want to be late for Professor Aris's lecture on the failed terraforming of Kepler 186e, do we?" Elara groaned good-naturedly. "No, Nona, not at all." The school transit tube whizzed Elara across Sector Gamma to the educational hub in Sector Beta. Astraea Academy was a hub of bright minds, all being prepared for their future roles in the colony's complex society. Today's lessons were a blur of data streams and holographic projections. History, theoretical physics, advanced astrogation. Elara absorbed it all, but her mind kept drifting back to her dream, to the silent majesty of the stars. Even the astrogation lessons, which showed intricate maps of star systems and projected flight paths, felt sterile compared to the vivid memory of her dream. During her lunch break, Elara found herself sketching in her personal datapad, not the required schematics or mathematical equations, but a swirling nebula, just like the one from her dream. She tried to capture the impossible blend of colors, the feeling of depth and distance. When she was done, it looked like a child's crayon drawing compared to the memory, but it was hers. "What's that, Elara?" Her friend, Jax, leaned over her shoulder, his own datapad displaying a complex coding sequence for a new drone navigation system. "Just a dream," Elara mumbled, quickly closing the sketch. She didn't often share her deep fascination with the real stars. Most of her peers were more interested in the practicalities of colony life, or the latest holovids from the entertainment nexus. Jax shrugged. "Looks cool, like one of the old star charts." He paused, then his eyes brightened. "Hey, you want to join me after school? I'm trying to hack into the old observation deck sensor array. They say it used to have a direct feed to the deep space telescopes before the power fluctuations. Maybe we can get it working again. Just for a peek. Elara's heart gave a hopeful flutter. The old observation deck. It was rumored to be derelict, locked away. Really? You think we could? Jax grinned. I'm 80% sure I can bypass the lockout protocols. It'll be a challenge. A direct feed to deep space telescopes. That sounded promising. But then she remembered Nona's mysterious wink. Maybe another time, Jax. Nona said she had something for me tonight. Jax's face fell slightly. Oh, okay. Well, if you change your mind. He returned to his coding, leaving Elara to wonder. Was Nona something going to be better than a potentially glitchy feed from an old telescope? It had to be. Nona never undersold a surprise. The journey home felt slower than usual. Elara's anticipation buzzed beneath her skin. What could Nona have planned? A new story? A rare, ancient artifact? Or something more? When she arrived back at their living module, Nona was waiting. She wore her usual work jumpsuit, but there was an unusual sparkle in her eyes, a quiet excitement that mirrored Elara's own. Welcome back, little star seeker, Nona said, her voice soft. Are you ready for your adventure? Elara nodded, barely able to speak. Yes, Nona, what is it? Nona didn't answer directly. Instead, she took Elara's hand. Her grip was warm, reassuring. Come, it's not far, but it requires a bit of discretion. Discretion? Elara's curiosity intensified. They walked through the familiar corridors of their residential sector, past other modules, past the communal recreation zones. Nona didn't lead her to the usual places. She turned down a seldom-used maintenance conduit, a narrow passage usually reserved for service bots. The air here was cooler, tinged with the metallic scent of uncirculated air. Where are we going, Nona? Elara whispered, her voice barely audible above the faint hum of the conduit walls. To a quiet place, Nona replied, her eyes twinkling in the dim light. A place where the universe speaks a little louder. They reached a heavy, unmarked door, nestled between two massive power conduits. It looked like any other utility access panel, grey and uninviting. Nona pressed her palm against a hidden scanner plate beside it. There was a soft hiss, and a faint green light pulsed. The heavy door slid open with a deep, resonant rumble, revealing not another maintenance shaft, but a short, dark corridor beyond. After you, Elara, Nona said, gesturing. Elara hesitated for a moment, then stepped through. The air on the other side was different, still, cool, and oddly pure. The corridor was short, leading to another door, this one sleek and black, almost invisible against the dark walls. As they approached, the door shimmered, and a faint ethereal blue light pulsed around its edges. Nona placed her hand on the blue-lit panel. This, Elara, is the Starlight chamber. The door hissed open, revealing a circular room, dimly lit by soft ambient light from the floor. The walls were a seamless, dark surface, reflecting nothing. In the center, a single plush chair, ergonomically designed, beckoned with its promise of comfort. It looked like a luxury version of her sleep cocoon, but larger, grander. What is it? Elara breathed, her voice filled with awe. It's a gift, Nona said, her voice full of tenderness. From the past, to the future. Come, sit. Elara walked towards the chair, her footsteps silent on the padded floor. She ran a hand over its smooth, cool surface, then carefully sat down. The chair enveloped her, molding to her form. It felt incredibly comfortable, almost as if it had been made just for her. Nona stood beside her, her face illuminated by the subtle floor lights. This chamber was designed by the first generation of Astraea colonists. They knew that even with all our technology, humanity would always yearn for the true void, for the starlight that nurtured our dreams on Earth. So they built this. It's not a ship, Elara. It doesn't move, but it connects. It allows you to experience the universe as if you were, through a network of the most advanced deep space sensors. Elara's heart pounded. This was more than a telescope feed. More than a dream. This was everything she had ever longed for. Are you ready? Nona asked, a gentle smile on her face. Elara nodded, unable to form words. Nona reached out and pressed a sequence of controls on a hidden panel beside the chair. The ambient light in the room began to dim, slowly, imperceptibly at first, then faster, plunging the chamber into near-total darkness. The only light now came from tiny, almost invisible indicators on the control panel, casting Nona's face in a soft, ethereal glow. A low hum filled the room, growing steadily in pitch. A deep, resonant vibration that seemed to course through the chair, through Ilara's very bones. It wasn't unpleasant, it was calming, a soothing frequency that resonated with the silence. Then, the walls began to change. First, a faint shimmer, like heat haze above a distant desert. Then, tiny pinpricks of light began to appear, one by one, then by the dozen, then by the hundreds. They weren't projections on the walls themselves seemed to dissolve, melting away into an infinite expanse. Ilara gasped. The hum deepened, and the chair subtly shifted, tilting her back, making her feel weightless. The pinpricks of light multiplied exponentially, blossoming into a breathtaking tapestry of stars. Not the simulated stars of her ceiling sphere, not the distant, hazy glows of Astrea's internal dome. These were real. Burning. Ancient Tyre. Their light, each one a tiny beacon, seemed to reach out across unimaginable distances, directly into the chamber, directly into her soul. The blackness around them was absolute, a perfect velvet backdrop, against which the stars glittered with impossible brilliance. Ilara felt as if she were truly floating, suspended in the deepest void, the only sound the soft rhythmic beating of her own heart. She saw not just stars but wisps of distant nebulae, faint and glowing, like cosmic ghosts. She saw the faint milky arm of their own galaxy, stretching out in a majestic sweep, a river of a billion suns. Tears welled in Ilara's eyes, hot and unexpected. This was it. This was the starlight Nona had spoken of. This was the dream, made real. "Welcome, Ilara," Nona's voice whispered, soft and reverent, from somewhere beside her. "Welcome to the true sky." Ilara reached out, her fingers trembling. The stars seemed to pulse, to beckon. She was surrounded, embraced by their ancient light. She could feel the immense, silent power of the cosmos, the boundless wonder of it all. It was more beautiful, more profound than any dream. It was a connection to something vast and eternal, something that stretched far beyond the confines of Astrea colony, far beyond the lifespan of any single human. The chamber shifted again, slowly, imperceptibly, turning her gaze towards a particularly brilliant cluster of stars, a dense patch of light that seemed to hum with concentrated energy. It felt like they were moving, though Nona had said they weren't. It felt like they were drifting deeper, further, into the heart of the galaxy. Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sensation wash over her, then opened them again, eager to drink in every atom of light. She was here, in the starlight, and the universe had just begun to show her its secrets. Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sensation wash over her, then opened them again, eager to drink in every atom of light. She was here in the starlight, and the universe had just begun to show her its secrets. The air around her, which usually carried the faint, clean scent of recycled oxygen, now seemed to shimmer with something else. A delicate, almost imperceptible fragrance that hinted at ozone and distant, sweet nebulae. The hum she'd felt earlier wasn't just a vibration, it was a low, resonant chord, a foundational note in the universe's grand symphony. It filled the expansive chamber, vibrating through the soles of her feet, up her spine, and settling in her chest like a warm purring cat. Nona, ever observant, materialized beside her, not with a sudden shift, but a gentle coalesce of light and shadow, as if the chamber itself had decided to grant her form. "Feeling the current, little stargazer?" Her voice, soft as a cosmic dust cloud, seemed to emanate not just from her, but from the very fabric of the starlight. Ilara nodded, unable to articulate the depth of her experience. It feels like we're moving," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Deeper." Nona smiled, a knowing curve of her lips. "We are, and we aren't." "The Y chorus chamber," she gestured vaguely, at the boundless view around them, doesn't traverse conventional space, not in the way a starship leaps from system to system. Instead, it attunes itself to the galactic currents, the underlying flows of energy and information that weave through the cosmos. Think of it as a leaf floating on an ocean. The leaf itself isn't actively Elara's brow furrowed slightly. So, we're not flying, we're... Precisely, Nona affirmed. And this particular current is drawn to concentrations of immense, cosmic energy. Like that brilliant cluster you were admiring, it's a cradle, nebula. Elara, a place where stars are born, where the raw materials of galaxies are forged and refined into something new, and sometimes, something truly extraordinary. As Nona spoke, the cluster of stars, which had previously appeared as a distant shimmering jewel, began to resolve into greater detail. It wasn't just a dense patch of light. It was a swirling, effervescent cauldron of blues, purples, and fiery oranges. Tendrils of luminous gas, like celestial painters' strokes, spiraled outwards, their edges blurring into velvet darkness. Within this cosmic artwork, pinpricks of light coalesced and flared, some appearing as tiny, shimmering pearls, others as nascent suns, barely contained spheres of plasma struggling to ignite. The feeling of drift intensified, becoming less a sensation of motion and more an expansion of perception. It was as if the chorus chamber itself was breathing, expanding its awareness to encompass the nebula's vastness. Elara felt a subtle pressure behind her eyes, not uncomfortable, but like a gentle urging to see more. I'm going to see more. Look closely, Elara, Nona prompted, her arm sweeping in an arc that encompassed the entire view. Beyond the stars themselves, do you see the threads? Elara squinted, focusing her gaze. Indeed, weaving through the gaseous clouds, were delicate, almost invisible filaments of light, connecting the nascent stars like an intricate living neural network. They pulsed faintly, sometimes independently, sometimes in unison, creating a complex silent rhythm across the nebula. Those are protostellar streams, Nona explained. Pathways of gas and dust, drawn together by gravity, feeding the hungry hearts of new suns. But they are also conduits of something else. Life often finds a way to exploit such flows. As if on cue, a shadow, impossibly vast, drifted into view from the deeper reaches of the nebula. It wasn't a star, nor a cloud, but something solid, yet translucent, like a colossal jellyfish made of solidified moonlight. It moved with an almost dreamlike grace, its immense trailing tendrils absorbing light from the protostellar streams, causing them to dim momentarily before flaring back to brilliance. Elara gasped, her breath catching in her throat. What is that? A stellar nomad, Nona said, a hint of reverence in her voice. A creature born of pure energy and condensed, nebular dust. They feed on stellar radiation and protomatter, growing to sizes that defy comprehension. They are the silent shepherds of star nurseries, guiding the currents, inadvertently shaping the birth of solar systems with their colossal forms. The stellar nomad was breathtaking. Its body, a vast crystalline bell, pulsed with an inner luminescence that shifted from soft indigo to vibrant emerald. Its tendrils, miles long, were adorned with sparkling motes of dust, like countless tiny diamonds caught in a celestial net. It passed directly in front of their view, so close that Elara felt she could reach out and trace the intricate patterns on its translucent skin. For a moment, its light eclipsed the distant stars, casting the chamber in a shifting, ethereal glow. The hum in the chamber deepened, resonating with the nomad's passage. Elara felt a sense of profound peace watching it, a confirmation that the universe was not just vast and empty, but teeming with unimaginable life, life that existed on scales she had never conceived. She wondered what it thought, what it felt, drifting through the cosmic ocean for millennia, watching stars ignite and die. Did it have dreams? Did it sing a silent song to the cosmos? As the stellar nomad began to recede, its light fading back into the nebula, Elara noticed something else. Within the very heart of the cradle, where the protostellar streams converged most densely, there was a rhythmic pulse, a beat that seemed to synchronize with the hum of the chorus chamber. It was deeper, more fundamental than the individual pulses of the stellar streams. It was like a colossal heart, beating at the core of creation. The heartbeat, Elara murmured, remembering Nona's earlier words about the hum. Indeed, Nona confirmed, her gaze fixed on the same point. Every nebula has its own rhythm, its own unique frequency. But this one, as they focused on the pulsing core, the spectral colors of the nebula intensified, swirling and merging into a kaleidoscope of light. Elara felt a strange tingling sensation on her skin, as if the very air was charged with dormant energy. Then, faint, harmonic sounds began to weave themselves into the deep hum. Not music, not words, but patterns of pure tone, rising and falling like a choir of distant, unseen entities. "What is that sound?" Elara whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "Ah, you hear them?" Nona said, a soft smile gracing her features. "The whispering echoes, residual energy imprints, Elara. Sometimes they are simply the ghost of a star's explosion, echoing through the gas clouds for eons. Other times, they are whispers of something more, memories of thought, fragments of long-lost civilizations, or perhaps even the nascent communications of intelligences just beginning to awaken within the nebula itself." The whispering echoes grew stronger, becoming clearer, like an ancient melody slowly emerging from static. Elara felt a profound sense of connection, as if the sounds were speaking directly to her, telling stories older than time. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the harmonies wash over her, feeling a strange blend of awe and melancholy. Were these voices truly lost? Or were they merely waiting for someone to listen? When she opened her eyes, Nona was pointing. But the heartbeat and the whispers, while beautiful, are not the only anomaly here. Little stargazer, look deeper, beyond the most vibrant heart of the cradle, where the light is so dense it almost feels solid. Elara strained her eyes, peering past the shimmering veils of gas and the blinding brilliance of nascent stars. It took a moment, for the structure was almost perfectly camouflaged by the nebula's own light, appearing as another, slightly denser swirl of luminosity. But then, as her eyes adjusted, and the chorus chamber's perception seemed to sharpen, she saw it. It was colossal, dwarfing even the stellar nomads, and unlike anything natural. A crystalline lattice, intricate and impossibly vast, shimmered with an inner light that was distinct from the surrounding nebula. Its form was geometric, composed of intersecting planes and impossibly delicate spires that seemed to stretch for light years, yet it also possessed an organic fluidity, as if it had grown from the nebula itself, rather than being constructed. It was like a snowflake magnified to cosmic proportions, but one that pulsed with purpose. What is Sitha?" Elara breathed, the words barely escaping her lips. Her heart hammered in her chest, a frantic counterpoint to the nebula's steady beat. "That, Elara," Nona said, her voice dropping to a tone of quiet reverence, "is what we call an architect's bloom. A legend whispered across the galaxy, a myth made real. We have observed fragments, remnants, echoes of such structures before, but never one so complete, so vibrant, so utterly alive." The architect's bloom pulsed with a soft, warm light, drawing energy from the surrounding protostellar streams and the nebula's core. It seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting almost imperceptibly, its crystalline facets shifting through a spectrum of colors Elara had never seen before. "An architect's bloom," Elara repeated, tasting the words. "What does it do?" "Its true purpose is shrouded in the mists of primordial galactic history," Nona explained. "But current theories suggest they are the legacy of a civilization so ancient, so advanced, that they predate the very concept of civilization as we understand it. They are thought to be self-replicating, self-sustaining constructs designed to harness the raw energy of nebulae and convert it into many things." As Nona spoke, the chorus chamber seemed to guide their perception closer, not physically moving, but allowing Elara to feel a connection to the bloom's immense presence. She felt its age, a profound, almost crushing weight of time, yet also an incredible vitality, a sense of ongoing creation. She could almost taste the metallic tang of cosmic dust and the sweet, clean scent of nascent stars emanating from its surface. Some say they seed galaxies with unique forms of life, Nona continued, her eyes fixed on the bloom, cultivating exotic biospheres on nascent worlds. Elara watched, mesmerized, as patterns of light flowed across the bloom's surface, like intricate circuitry, etched across a diamond mountain range. The whispering echoes intensified, seeming to emanate directly from the bloom, their harmonies now carrying distinct, almost mathematical progressions, like a language of pure energy. This particular bloom, however, Nona said, her voice now filled with a hint of awe, appears to be engaged in something even more profound. It is not merely harvesting energy, it is processing it, transforming it. Look at the central node, Elara, where the light is most concentrated. Elara focused, her gaze piercing through the dazzling layers of light. At the very heart of the architect's bloom, where the geometric crystalline structures converged, there was a point of incandescent brilliance. It wasn't a star, but a contained light, pure and intense, radiating outward like a beacon. And within that light, something was forming. It started as a ripple, a subtle distortion in the pure energy. Then, slowly, infinitesimally, a section of the crystalline lattice began to shift, to open, like the petals of a flower unfolding in slow motion. It wasn't a destructive process, but one of gentle, deliberate revelation. The opening wasn't a gaping maw, but a precisely formed aperture, revealing a deeper, even more concentrated source of light within. This light was different. It wasn't the raw, explosive brilliance of a star, nor the soft glow of a nebula. It was pure, distilled light, imbued with a quality that felt both ancient and utterly new. It hummed with a different frequency, a higher, sweeter note in the cosmic symphony. From within this opening, a single delicate thread of light extended, reaching out into the heart of the Cradle Nebula, then retracting, as if testing the waters. Elara felt an undeniable pull, a profound curiosity that transcended anything she had ever experienced. It was an invitation, silent and undeniable, from something unimaginably vast and old. The light seemed to beckon her, to draw her deeper into its mystery. What was inside? What wonder, what secret, what new form of existence was being cultivated within the heart of this ancient cosmic bloom? Nona placed a gentle hand on Elara's shoulder, her touch light as a feather, but grounding. The universe, little stargazer, is an endless book of wonders. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough, if you look deeply enough, it opens a new page just for you. This is one of those moments. Elara didn't reply, her gaze fixed on the unfolding light. The architect's bloom, an ancient marvel, was revealing a new secret, and she was poised on the precipice of its discovery. The feeling of drifting deeper, further, had never been more pronounced. The universe had shown her its secrets, and now, it was inviting her inside. The light didn't just brighten, it softened, diffused into 1,000 hues that swirled around Elara, not as solid colors but as living thoughts. She felt less like she was seeing them and more like she was experiencing them, each shade a whisper of an ancient memory, a fleeting echo of a star's birth or a nebula's slow dance. The sensation of drifting deepened, becoming a gentle current that pulled her, not through space, but through a fabric woven from time and possibility. Her perception shifted. The familiar hum of the architect's bloom, which had always been a background thrum in her life, sharpened, resolving into a symphony of incredibly complex, almost crystalline frequencies. It was the sound of creation itself, a cosmic lullaby sung by the universe. She felt no fear, only an immense encompassing curiosity, a profound sense of belonging that transcended her small self and connected her to something vast and eternal. Then, the colors coalesced, fading not into darkness, but into a shimmering, translucent veil. She passed through it, effortlessly, and found herself in a place that defied any description she had ever learned. It wasn't a room, or a landscape, or even a dimension as she understood it. It was a geithotoin, a sprawling, intricate, living thought manifested into a reality. Above her, a sky, but not of blue or black. It was a canvas of ever-shifting starlight, not distant suns, but constellations that seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting, with a silent, rhythmic pulse. Nebulae spun into existence, not as clouds of gas, but as intricate, luminous fractals, each twist and turn revealing hidden geometries and harmonies. The ground beneath her feet wasn't solid. It was a field of what looked like solidified stardust, glowing faintly, yielding to her weight with the softness of deep moss. As she took a step, tiny, phosphorescent motes would puff up, like miniature fireworks, then settle back down, leaving behind a subtle, sweet scent she couldn't quite place, something akin to ozone after a storm, mixed with the fragrance of a flower that had never bloomed on her homeworld. Towering around her were structures that defied conventional architecture. They seemed to grow rather than be built. Spindly, iridescent spires reached towards the breathing sky, their surfaces rippling with internal light, like veins of pure energy. Some were slender and elegant, tapering to impossibly sharp points that pierced the luminous haze above. Others were broad and ancient, their bases rooted deep into the stardust ground, their upper reaches expanding into vast organic platforms, humming with a low resonant energy. These weren't buildings, they were living constructs, vast crystalline organisms that seemed to communicate through light and vibration. She looked down at her own hand. It was still her hand, but it shimmered slightly, as if infused with the same subtle luminescence that pervaded this realm. She felt lighter, more attuned, her senses heightened to an extraordinary degree. She could almost feel the silent conversations between the crystalline spires, the gentle pulse of the stardust beneath her feet, the slow, majestic dance of the cosmic fractals in the sky. Remarkable, she whispered, her voice a tiny sound in this grand expanse, yet it seemed to echo, not audibly, but as a ripple through the very fabric of the place, causing the nearest spire to pulse a brighter green. A sense of direction drew her forward, not a physical pull, but an intuitive understanding, a quiet invitation. She began to walk, her steps silent on the glowing ground. The further she went, the more the environment revealed its intricate secrets. Small, luminous flora, like miniature galaxies trapped in crystal, bloomed in clusters, their petals unfurling in slow-motion bursts of light. Delicate, winged creatures, no larger than her thumb, flitted between them, leaving trails of faint musical chimes in their wake. They were made of pure light, their forms ephemeral, yet perfectly defined, like living constellations. One of these creatures, a tiny sapphire-winged sprite, drifted close to her, circling her head once before settling gently on her outstretched finger. It pulsed with a soft, warm light, and Alara felt a wave of pure contentment wash over her, a feeling of absolute peace. It was a communication, a silent greeting. She smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. As she continued, the grander structures grew more varied. Some of the organic platforms she had seen in the distance now loomed closer. One, particularly vast, resembled a colossal, inverted flower, its petals made of polished obsidian that absorbed the starlight, only to release it in dazzling, kaleidoscopic bursts from its center. Intrigued, Alara approached it. At the heart of the obsidian flower, a single perfectly spherical orb hovered, shimmering with an internal light that shifted through every color of the spectrum. It was about the size of her head, and as she drew near, she felt a subtle vibration emanating from it, a gentle hum that resonated deep within her bones. This was clearly a focal point, a nexus of some kind. Cautiously, she extended a hand towards it. As her fingers neared its surface, the orb's light intensified, then pulsed, and a projection bloomed in the air before her. It wasn't a hologram, it was more like a window into another place, another time. The projection showed a vast, swirling nebula, far more vibrant and complex than any she had ever seen. Within its incandescent clouds, faint structures began to resolve, colossal, elegant vessels, unlike any known starships. They were sleek, organic, flowing forms, clearly designed for traversing the interstellar medium, yet they pulsed with the same inner light she saw in the spires around her. These were the ships of the architect. The scene zoomed in, passing through the hull of one such vessel, revealing a chamber filled with figures. They were tall, slender, and radiant, their forms less solid than light itself, yet clearly intelligent beings. Their movements were graceful, purposeful, like dancers in a cosmic ballet. They were interacting with similar glowing orbs, manipulating vast datasets and energy flows with what seemed like pure thought. Their faces, if they had faces, were indescribable, a confluence of light and shadow, conveying immense wisdom and profound calm. Elara gasped softly. She was seeing the architects, not as legends, but as they truly were, or perhaps as they once were. This wasn't just a recording, it felt like a living memory, imbued with the very presence of these beings. The projection shifted, showing the architects engaged in acts of creation. They weren't building with tools, but coaxing stars into existence, shaping nebulae with gentle gestures, weaving planetary systems from cosmic dust. They were gardeners of the cosmos, tending to the universe with an artistry and power that humbled her to her core. They planted life on barren worlds, not by brute force, but by implanting intricate genetic codes into nascent oceans, nudging evolution with subtle energies. Then, the scene changed again. The architects were gathered, their light dimming slightly, conveying a sense of solemnity. They seemed to be making a decision, a grave one. They looked out into the vastness, and Elara felt a wave of something akin to sorrow, a profound weariness, emanating from the projected figures. They were contemplating a threat, an unknown darkness gathering at the edges of their magnificent garden. The projection zoomed out, showing the entire galaxy, a breathtaking spiral of stars. A dark encroaching shadow, like a creeping blight, began to spread from the galactic rim, consuming stars, silencing nebulae. It was not a physical entity, but a negation, an absence of light, a devourer of life and possibility. The architects, in response, began to gather their energy, not for battle, but for preservation. They started to weave intricate veils of light, not to hide, but to protect. They created vast, intricate networks of spatial anomalies and temporal distortions, carefully shielding pockets of life, entire star systems, from the encroaching darkness. It was an act of profound sacrifice, diverting their own boundless energy to erect defenses that would last for eons, even if they themselves might not. And then, one architect, more radiant than the others, stepped forward. Its form seemed to condense, becoming more defined, though still shimmering with internal light. It held aloft a smaller, intensely glowing orb, one exactly like the one Elara was touching. The architect looked directly at the orb, and by extension, it felt like it was looking directly at here. A silent message, clear as a bell, resonated in her mind. We must preserve. We must remember. And one day, if the darkness recedes, a new generation will awaken what we have preserved. They will be the keepers of the flame, the inheritors of the garden. We are Sian. The scene dissolved. The orb Elara was touching pulsed once more, then settled into a steady, gentle glow. The architect's message, their history, their warning, was etched into her very being. She pulled her hand back, a tremor running through her. The sheer weight of what she had witnessed was immense. The architects were not just creators, they were guardians, protectors against a cosmic horror that had once threatened to extinguish all light. And the architect's bloom, this magnificent structure, was not merely a repository of knowledge, but a living testament to their struggle, a seed of hope planted in the heart of the galaxy. She understood now. The bloom wasn't just opening a new page, it was handing her a new chapter, a responsibility. The new page wasn't just information, it was a legacy. She looked around the wondrous living landscape, seeing it now with new eyes. Every crystalline spire, every glowing mote of stardust, every shimmering sprite felt imbued with purpose, with a silent vigil. This entire realm was a memory, a simulation, a training ground, perhaps even a sanctuary left by the architects. A new sensation arose within her, not a sound, but a feeling of gentle pressure, a subtle hum emanating from the ground beneath her feet, rising through the spires and converging towards the breathing, starlit sky. It was a call, an activation. The air around her began to shimmer more intensely. The distant fractals in the sky began to move faster, coalescing into more defined patterns, resembling intricate, three-dimensional maps. She realized what they were. They were star charts. Not static images but dynamic, evolving projections of the galaxy, highlighting specific regions, systems, and even individual planets. And one particular cluster of stars, glowing brighter than the rest, seemed to pulse with an urgent invitation. It was the location of a preserved pocket, perhaps one of the very sanctuaries the architects had created. Her heart quickened. The invitation was clear. This was the next step. Not just to observe, but to participate. The bloom was not just showing her the past, it was pointing towards the future. It was asking her to find these hidden sanctuaries, to understand what they contained, and perhaps to help nurture the seeds of light the architects had planted. But how? How would she, a single girl, navigate the vastness of the galaxy, seeking out these ancient secrets? The magnitude of the task was overwhelming, yet the wonder she felt was even greater. As if in answer to her unspoken question, the ground beneath her feet began to glow more intensely. A section of the stardust field, directly in front of her, started to rise, coalescing into a shimmering, translucent console. It wasn't built of metal or plastic, but of pure condensed light, its surface flowing with symbols and interfaces she instinctively understood, even though she had never seen them before. At its center, a single deep blue crystal pulsed, resonating with the same frequency she had felt from the orb. As she reached out, her hand hovered over it, feeling its ancient power. This was a control interface, a key. She knew with an absolute certainty that touching this crystal would activate something profound, something that would take her beyond this simulated memory, out into the real galaxy, armed with the knowledge and the mission the architects had bestowed upon her. It was a leap into the unknown, a journey she had only dreamed of, now laid out before her. The gentle current she had felt at the beginning of this journey returned, pulling at her, but this time, it felt like a wind at her back, urging her forward. The symphony of creation swelled, no longer a distant hum, but a chorus that filled her very being, cheering her on. She took a deep breath, the unique scent of stardust and ozone filling her lungs. The immense responsibility settled upon her, heavy yet exhilarating. The universe had opened a new page for her, and now, it was asking her to write the next chapter. The architect's legacy, the hope for the future, rested in her hands. With a heart full of wonder and a spirit alight with purpose, Elara reached out and pressed her fingers against the pulsing blue crystal. The world around her didn't fade, it intensified. The starlight sky pulsed into a single blinding point of light, drawing her in, faster and faster. The crystalline spires dissolved into streaks of color, the gentle hum of the bloom rising to a crescendo that vibrated through her entire being. She was no longer drifting. She was accelerating, pulled forward by an unseen force, towards a destination unknown, but undeniably real. The feeling of being invited inside had transformed. She wasn't just being shown a secret, she was being sent to unravel it. The universe was no longer just showing her its wonders, it was sending her to explore them, to guard them, to rekindle the light. Elara, the girl who listened to the whispers of the cosmos, was about to become a whisper herself, carried on the currents of the stars. The journey had truly begun. The journey had truly begun. The unseen force that had drawn her forward now cradled her, a gentle hand woven from starlight and cosmic dust. She wasn't hurtled, but rather accelerated with a serene grace that defied all earthly physics. Around her, the familiar pinprick stars began to streak, elongating into luminous rivers, then dissolving into a swirling, iridescent tunnel. It felt like being wrapped in a kaleidoscope made of nebulae, each shifting hue or whisper of a distant galaxy. Elara felt no fear, only a profound sense of rightness, a quiet awe that expanded within her chest, echoing the vastness surrounding her. The whispers, usually a gentle murmur at the edge of hearing, now surged and swelled, forming a harmonious symphony of cosmic information, a language she didn't understand with her mind, but comprehended with her soul. She saw fleeting images, a sun blooming like a fiery rose, a cluster of crystalline asteroids humming with unseen life, a nebula shaped like a giant, sleeping creature. They were glimpses of the tapestry of existence, presented not as a chaotic sprawl, but as an intricate, interconnected whole. She realized the currents of the stars weren't just pathways. They were conduits of knowledge, carrying the echoes of creation, the dreams of nascent civilizations, and the quiet sorrow of fading worlds. Time became a fluid concept, stretching and compressing until it held no meaning. Eventually the dazzling tunnel began to coalesce, the streaking light slowing to reveal distinct stars once more. She was approaching something. Not a planet, not a star, but an immense structure, gleaming faintly against the velvet blackness. It was unlike anything she had ever imagined. It was a colossal, crystalline flower, its petals unfurling in slow, deliberate motion, each 1 mile long and shimmering with an inner light. At its heart pulsed a soft, golden radiance, like a captured sunbeam. As she drew closer, Elara saw that the petals were not solid, but interwoven with intricate filigree, a lattice of light that pulsed in rhythm with the golden core. It was a place of breathtaking beauty and ancient mystery, clearly built by hands, or minds, far beyond human comprehension. The unseen force guided her directly towards the heart of the crystalline flower. A section of a petal, shimmering like liquid light, parted to create an entrance, inviting her into its luminous embrace. She drifted through the opening, feeling the gentle hum of the structure resonate through her very bones. Inside, the air shimmered, carrying the scent of ozone and something else, something ancient and sweet, like stardust and forgotten flowers. She was in a vast chamber, its walls shimmering with patterns of light that shifted and danced, depicting constellations and cosmic events. In the center, suspended in mid-air, was the source of the golden radiance. It was a sphere, no larger than her own 2 hands, yet it pulsed with an energy that seemed to sustain the entire structure, and perhaps far more. But its light, though beautiful, as if veiled. The whispers intensified, no longer a general hum, but a distinct chorus, guiding her gaze to the sphere. Heart of Ethel. Your name resonated within her, a name of profound significance. It dims. The light fades. It hungers for connection. Inyasel. Elara slowly approached the floating sphere. As she drew nearer, she noticed faint, almost imperceptible cracks in its surface, like delicate spiderwebs woven from shadow. The golden light flickered within, as if struggling to break free. She reached out a hand, hesitant at first, then determined. Her fingertips brushed against the cool, smooth surface. Immediately, a jolt of energy surged through her, not painful but profound. Images flooded her mind, vast libraries of light, ancient beings of pure energy tending to cosmic gardens, entire star systems blossoming into life from this very sphere. She saw the heart of Ethel as a universal conduit, a nexus of creation and knowledge, drawing energy from the cosmic tapestry and radiating it outward, sustaining life and understanding across countless galaxies. But then, the images shifted. She saw shadows spreading, not physical darkness, but a creeping forgetfulness, a slow unraveling of connections. Worlds growing isolated, knowledge becoming fragmented, the vibrant hum of the universe quieting to a lonely drone. The cracks in the sphere were not structural flaws, but fissures in the flow of cosmic energy, wounds in the fabric of shared consciousness. The whispers solidified, forming a coherent thought in her mind, clear as if spoken aloud. Wind the great forgetting. Mwah. It began eons ago. The tendrils of connection, stretched too thin, began to fray. The heart of Ethel, designed to knit all life, all knowledge, into one harmonious whole, began to stir. It needs to remember. It needs to be reminded of what it connects. Elara understood. The light wasn't just physical energy. It was the light of shared experience, of empathy, of interconnectedness. The universe wasn't just showing her its wonders, it was showing her its vulnerability. And she, a girl who listened to whispers, was meant to rekindle that empathy, that connection. But how? How could one small human reconnect something so vast, so ancient? She looked around the chamber. The dancing lights on the walls began to shift, coalescing into more distinct patterns. They weren't just decorative, they were instructions. An ancient script, shimmering and alive, began to unfurl across the crystalline surfaces. Elara found she could understand it, not through conscious translation, but through a deep intuitive knowing. It spoke of cycles, of resonance, of the universal song. The script instructed her to listen, truly listen to the echoes of the universe within the heart, to offer it the very essence of what it had lost, connection. She closed her eyes, placing both hands firmly on the pulsing sphere. She took a deep breath, letting her own consciousness expand, reaching out as she had always reached out to the whispers, but now with an intentionality she'd never known. She remembered her quiet nights under the stars, the feeling of the cosmos calling to her, the profound sense of belonging despite her smallness. She poured all of that into her touch, her wonder, her curiosity, her yearning for understanding. Suddenly, the sphere responded. Its golden light flared, then dimmed again, but not from weakness. It was as if it was drawing something. Elara felt a gentle pull, a sensation of her own memories, her own emotions being drawn out and woven into the heart. She saw flashes of her life, her first time seeing a comet, the warmth of her grandmother's hand, the joy of solving a difficult puzzle, the quiet comfort of a familiar story. These weren't just her memories, they were expressions of connection, of learning, of love. The whispers now sang through her, in her, around her. They guided her to focus on specific memories, not just her own, but echoes of connection she'd picked up from the cosmic currents. She remembered the faint, joyful hum of a distant alien civilization, discovering faster than light travel. The silent, profound grief of a dying star nurturing its last planets. The collective hope of a species planting its first garden on a new world. These were all threads of connection, moments when disparate elements of the universe reached out and touched. As she offered these fragments, the sphere pulsed more strongly. The cracks began to glow, not with the fading light, but with a new, vibrant energy, as if being mended from within. The golden radiance intensified, spreading outwards like ripples in a pond of light. The ancient script on the walls continued to unfold, revealing the next step. The heart of Ethel needed to broadcast this renewed connection, to re-establish its tendrils across the cosmos. And for that, it needed a conduit, a living amplifier. You are the whisper, Elara. You are the echo. You are the bridge. Ginin, Anyao. A small platform, made of the same shimmering crystal as the flower, rose from the floor. At its center was a concave indentation, perfectly sized for her to sit within. She understood. She was to become part of the broadcast, to lend her unique ability to listen and transmit the whispers of connection. With newfound courage, Elara settled onto the platform. As she did, delicate filaments of light, like luminous vines, extended from the crystal and gently wrapped around her arms, her legs, her forehead. They weren't restrictive, they felt like an extension of herself, humming with a gentle energy. The sensation was profoundly intimate, as if the entire structure was welcoming her, merging with her. She closed her eyes again, focusing on the heart of Athel, now pulsating with a steady, magnificent glow. She felt the flow of energy from the sphere into her, and from her, out into the vast crystalline flower. She was no longer just listening to whispers, she was becoming a conduit for them, a channel for the universe's own song of reunion. She became aware of the immense, intricate architecture of the crystalline flower around her. Each petal, she realized, was a vast antenna, designed to receive and transmit cosmic signals. With her mind, amplified by the heart of Athel, she could feel them activating, reaching out across unimaginable distances. She felt the tendrils of connection stretching, searching. At first it was like throwing a pebble into an ocean, a small ripple in an infinite void. But then, guided by the whispers now roaring with purpose through her, she began to guide the tendrils. She sought out the faint echoes of the great forgetting she had glimpsed earlier, isolated worlds, fragmented knowledge, lonely stars. She sent out not just energy, but feeling. She projected the wonder she felt, the curiosity that had always driven her, the empathy that bound her to every living thing she had ever known. She imagined those distant, isolated places, picturing them bathed in the golden light, receiving a message of belonging. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, then with growing strength, the universe began to respond. Faint, shimmering threads of light, like silver webbing, began to appear in her mind's eye, originating from countless points across the cosmos, and converging on the crystalline flower. These were the connections, the lost threads, re-establishing themselves. She felt the joy of a long-forgotten archive, relinking to its sister libraries across light years. She felt the sudden, exhilarating realization of two disparate alien species, finding common ground through a shared scientific principle, previously obscured by the Great Forgetting. She felt the profound relief of a dying sun, its last whispers of wisdom finally reaching a nascent civilization ready to listen. The chamber around her glowed with an intensity that would have been blinding, yet Elara saw it all with perfect clarity. The walls shimmered with 1,000 new constellations, born of renewed connection. The heart of Ethel pulsed with a steady, magnificent beat, its golden light now radiating pure, unadulterated joy. The cracks were gone. The sphere was whole again, vibrant and alive, humming with the song of a reconnected cosmos. Elara felt the filaments of light gently withdraw from her. The platform lowered her back to the floor. She opened her eyes, feeling a profound lightness, a sensation of having been cleansed and renewed. The whispers around her had shifted. They were no longer a plea, nor a guide, but a chorus of gratitude, a symphony of thanks that resonated in the deepest parts of her being. She had rekindled the light. She had helped the heart of Ethel remember its purpose, and in doing so, had helped the universe remember itself. A soft, shimmering portal, like a window made of liquid starlight, opened before her. It was time to return. But not entirely. As she stepped towards the portal, the whispers coalesced into a final, profound message, settling into her mind like warm stardust. The light is rekindled, Elara. But the guarding never truly ends. The universe is a living, breathing thing, and its connections must be tended. You are now a guardian, not of a place, but of the whisper itself. You will carry its song within you, forever a bridge between worlds, a beacon for connection. Nahon. She stepped through the portal. The sensation was gentle, like stepping from one dream into another. The kaleidoscopic tunnel of streaking stars enveloped her once more, but this time, it felt different. It was no longer an unknown path, but a familiar embrace. She was returning, but she was not the same girl who had left. She felt the gentle deceleration, the familiar star patterns of her own galaxy slowly resolving around her. And then, with a soft, almost imperceptible shimmer, she was back in her own room. The starlight from her window still streamed across her floor, the gentle hum of her room's atmospheric regulator a comforting presence. She was lying on her bed, tucked under her favorite blanket, just as she had been. Had it all been a dream? She looked at her hands. They felt different somehow, infused with a subtle warmth, a faint shimmer that only she could perceive. She felt the whispers still within her, not just around her, but a part of her own consciousness. They were quieter now, a soft, reassuring hum, like the gentle thrum of the reconnected universe. Elara walked to her window and gazed out at the stars. They seemed brighter, more alive, each one a tiny point in an infinite network of light and connection. She could almost feel the tendrils reaching out, connecting star to star, galaxy to galaxy, mind to mind. Her mission wasn't over. It had simply transformed. She was a guardian now, not in a way that demanded constant vigilance or battle, but in a way that called for quiet listening, for fostering connection, for reminding others of the profound beauty of being part of something vast and wondrous. She would carry the song of the reconnected cosmos within her, a silent beacon in the quiet corners of the world. She climbed back into bed, pulling her blanket up high. The whispers were a lullaby now, a gentle melody of cosmic peace. She closed her eyes, and as sleep began to pull her down, she knew that the universe was safe, reconnected and humming with a light that would shine for eons. And she, Elara, the girl who listened to whispers, was now a part of that eternal song, forever connected to the stars, forever a guardian of their quiet, wondrous light. And as she drifted off, she carried the knowledge that even the smallest whisper, when truly heard, could rekindle the greatest light. Sweet dreams, little star, listener. The universe sleeps soundly tonight, with you in its gentle embrace.